The twin suns hung low in the sky of the alien marketplace, painting everything in gold and red. The air shimmered with heat, the smell of metal and spices mixed with the sound of shouting traders and the hum of machines. Among the crowd of strange creatures and alien merchants, one human walked slowly, his boots leaving deep marks in the dusty ground. His name was Ethan Cole, a traveler, a mechanic, and once a soldier. He carried little with him, just a small pack, a data chip, and an old leather wallet that had survived years of war and wandering. From behind a broken stall, a small figure watched him. Her eyes were large and bright like tiny blue stars, her skin pale silver with faint glowing lines that pulsed softly under the skin. Her name was Lyra, a little alien girl no older than 10 human years. She was thin, too thin, her clothes torn, her hands dirty from digging through trash piles. She had been hungry for days. Her mother was sick and no one would help them. To most people in this city, her kind were worthless. Ethan stopped at a food stall, exchanging a few credits for a small box of cooked meat. He didn't notice that as he turned to leave, his wallet slipped from his pocket and fell into the dust. He walked on, disappearing into the crowd. Lyra stared at the brown thing lying near her feet. She didn't know what it was, but it looked valuable. Slowly, she crawled forward, her tiny fingers trembling as she picked it up. The leather felt warm under her touch. She opened it carefully. Inside were strange things. Rectangular cards, bits of paper with human writing, and a small photo. Her breath caught when she saw the picture. It showed a smiling woman holding a baby. Their faces were happy, their eyes bright. Lyra stared at it for a long moment. She had never seen such joy before. Her mother used to smile once long ago before the sickness came, before the soldiers took everything. "Hey," a calm voice said behind her. "That belongs to me." Lyra froze. Her heart raced. Slowly, she turned her head. Ethan was standing there, his shadow long over the dusty ground. His expression wasn't angry. He just looked tired and curious. His human eyes were sharp but gentle, and when they met hers, something strange passed between them. Something like pity. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice weak and broken. "I didn't mean to steal it, I just—" She clutched the wallet tightly, afraid he might hurt her. Ethan knelt down so he wouldn't tower over her. "Easy," he said softly. "I'm not mad. You didn't run away, so that already says something." He looked at her more closely now. "You're just a kid. What's your name?" She hesitated. No one had asked her name in a long time. "Lyra," she said quietly. "Lyra," he repeated as if trying to remember it. Pretty name. She blinked up at him, confused by his kindness. No human had ever spoken to her that way before. Most humans in this colony saw aliens like her as pests or beggars. Ethan reached out his hand, palm open. "Can I have my wallet back, Lyra?" She looked down at the wallet, then at the photo again. "Is this your family?" she asked softly. He nodded. "Used to be," he said after a pause. "They're gone now. War took them." Lyra's throat tightened. She handed the wallet back slowly. "I'm sorry," she whispered again. Ethan took it, then smiled faintly. "You have good manners for a thief." That made her eyes widen. "I wasn't going to steal," she cried. "I just wanted to ask—" She stopped herself suddenly, biting her lip. Ethan tilted his head. "Ask what?" Her eyes filled with tears. "You're human," she said quickly, her voice trembling. "Humans can go inside the big clinics. They have medicine. Please, sir, I didn't want to steal. I just wanted to ask, can you help my mother?" The noise of the market seemed to fade around them. Ethan stared at her, unsure if he had heard right. The little alien girl looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Her hands were shaking. She looked ready to collapse. He placed his wallet back in his pocket. "Your mother's sick?" She nodded hard, tears now streaming down her silver cheeks. "She can't breathe right. Her skin burns. They threw her out of the clinic because we have no credits. They said she wasn't worth saving." Ethan's jaw tightened. He looked around, the merchants, the guards, the bright banners of alien text, all pretending not to see her. He took a deep breath, then held out his hand again. "Take me to her," he said quietly. Lyra blinked. "You'll come?" "I'll come," he said, his tone firm but gentle. "Show me where she is." For the first time, she smiled, a small, trembling smile full of hope. She grabbed his rough human hand with her tiny glowing one. As they walked away through the dusty alleys, the wind picked up, carrying the sound of alarms far in the distance. Somewhere in that vast alien city, a human and a starving alien child were about to cross a line no one dared to cross, and neither of them knew that this small act of kindness would soon shake the galaxy itself. The streets behind the market were silent compared to the noise of the bazaar, the air thick with smoke and the hum of broken machines. Ethan followed the little alien girl through narrow alleys, stepping over piles of metal and glowing trash. Lyra moved quickly, barefoot and careful, glancing back every few seconds to make sure he was still behind her. Her small hand still clutched his tightly, as if afraid he would vanish like a dream. They reached an old metal gate half buried in sand. Lyra pressed her small fingers against a cracked scanner, and with a faint buzz, the gate creaked open. The smell of rust and sickness hit Ethan's nose immediately. Inside, he saw a small dark shelter made from old transport containers. It was hidden from the world, silent except for the faint sound of shallow breathing. On a thin blanket near a dying fire lay a woman, an alien woman, older than Lyra, her skin the same silver shade but dim, her body shaking with every breath. Her eyes opened weakly when she heard footsteps. "Mom," Lyra whispered, kneeling beside her. "I brought someone. He's human. He can help." The woman's lips moved, but her voice was barely a whisper. "Lyra, you shouldn't have—" Ethan knelt beside them, scanning her quickly with his old med device. The numbers flickered weakly, oxygen low, infection spreading, fever off the charts. He frowned. The sickness was advanced. Without medical nanites or power cells, she wouldn't survive the night. "What happened to her?" Ethan asked quietly. "They worked her in the factories," Lyra said, tears building again. "The air there is poison for us. When she got sick, they fired her. I begged them to treat her, but they said aliens like us can't afford human medicine. They said she was worthless." Ethan looked at the girl, her trembling hands, her frightened eyes, and then at the dying woman. His chest tightened. He had seen this before on too many worlds. Every war left behind people like this, forgotten, broken, invisible. The mother coughed weakly, reaching toward him. "Human, please." "Don't hurt her." Ethan shook his head softly. "I'm not here to hurt anyone. I just want to help." He pulled out a small injector from his kit, loading a weak painkiller. The device blinked yellow, low power. Still, he injected it into her arm. The woman exhaled in relief as her shaking eased a little. Lyra looked at him with wide, shining eyes. "You really can help her?" "I'll try," Ethan said, his voice calm but firm. "But she needs real care. A med bay, machines, nanites. My tools can only keep her stable for a short time." Lyra's voice broke. "Please take her to a clinic. They will listen to you, you're human." "They have to." Ethan sighed, glancing toward the metal door. "It's not that simple. Humans here follow rules. They don't help outsiders like you. If I walk in with your mother, they'll arrest us both." Lyra's face fell. Her small body shook as she whispered, "Then she'll die." Ethan looked down. He had told himself he was done being a hero long ago. He had lost too many people trying to do the right thing. But now, as he saw this little girl crying beside her mother, something old and familiar stirred inside him. The same fire that once made him fight for those who couldn't fight back. He placed a hand gently on Lyra's shoulder. "There might be another way," he said slowly. Lyra wiped her tears, looking up at him with hope and fear mixed in her glowing eyes. "What way?" "There's an old clinic," Ethan explained. "It's been closed for years. It used to treat soldiers during the war. I worked there once. If we can get inside, there might still be working med pods or supplies left behind." Lyra's heart raced. "Can you take us there?" Ethan nodded, glancing at her mother. "But we'll have to move soon, before dark." Lyra quickly began to pack what little they had. A blanket, a broken data slate, a photo of her and her mother from better times. Ethan lifted the sick woman carefully in his arms. She was light, too light, her breathing shallow but steady. As they stepped out into the cold, dusty wind, Lyra whispered, "Why are you helping us, human? You don't even know us." Ethan looked ahead, his eyes hard. "Because no one else will." They moved through the abandoned streets, the dying light casting long shadows. Distant sirens echoed, and Ethan could see patrol drones moving in the sky. If they were caught, there would be no mercy. Lyra walked beside him, clutching the edge of his coat. For the first time in her life, she felt a strange kind of safety, as if this one human could protect her from the whole cruel galaxy. Ethan looked down at her once and thought of his own daughter. the one he lost years ago. For a moment, Lyra's face and his daughter's blurred together in his mind. He tightened his grip around the sick woman and whispered under his breath, "Hang on. I won't let another child lose their mother." As the wind howled through the empty streets, the three figures disappeared into the shadows. One human, one dying alien mother, and one brave little girl who refused to give up. And somewhere deep inside Ethan, a spark began to burn again, the spark of humanity that no war or hate could ever destroy. The night air bit at Ethan's face as he carried Lyra's mother through the empty streets, the cold wind whispering through broken towers of glass and steel. The city lights flickered weakly. Like dying stars in a sky full of dust, Lyra followed close behind, her small feet moving quickly to match his long steps. They had been walking for hours through back alleys and forgotten roads, avoiding patrol drones that scanned every corner of the slum. The girl stayed quiet, but her eyes never left her mother's pale face. Every breath her mother took was slower than the last. Ethan could hear it. The soft, rattling sound that meant time was running out. Finally, he stopped in front of a half-buried building covered with vines and rusted metal signs. Faded letters written in both human and alien script glowed faintly under the dust. "Alliance Medical Center, Sector 7. This is it," Ethan said quietly, lowering the woman gently onto a pile of dry fabric. Lyra looked up at the old metal doors, wide-eyed. "This place looks haunted," she whispered. Ethan gave a small smile. "Maybe it is," he said, "but it once saved lives." He pressed his old military ID against the door's scanner. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low mechanical hum, the door lights flickered green. The metal creaked open with a long groan, releasing a wave of cold, sterile air mixed with the scent of decay. Inside, the lights were dim, the hallways covered in dust and cobwebs. Broken screens flickered on the walls, showing faint outlines of human soldiers and doctors. Ethan's boots echoed through the silence, each step stirring up memories he wished he'd buried long ago. Lyra's voice trembled. "You worked here?" He nodded. "A long time ago during the war," he said. "We treated soldiers, both human and alien, before politics ruined everything." They reached the old med bay. Rows of empty beds and silent machines stood like ghosts of the past. Ethan placed Lyra's mother on one of the tables and wiped the dust off the control panel. He connected his portable power cell to the main system. Sparks flew, then the room came alive. Soft lights flickering, machines humming weakly back to life. Lyra gasped, her glowing eyes wide. "It's working!" Ethan checked the vitals on the screen. "Barely," he said, "but maybe enough." He inserted a scanner near her mother's neck, watching the data stream appear. Her body temperature was dangerously low, her lungs full of infection, the kind that spread fast in the alien mines. He opened a drawer, finding an old box of medical nanites, human grade, but outdated still. It was the best chance she had. Ethan loaded them into the injector. Adjusting the dosage carefully, Lyra stood beside him, holding her mother's hand tightly. "Will it hurt her?" she asked in a small voice. Ethan shook his head. "No, little one," he said softly. "This will help her fight." He pressed the injector against the woman's arm. The nanites flowed into her bloodstream. The machine beeped slowly, showing signs of stabilization. Lyra's mother's breathing began to even out. The trembling in her body eased. A faint color returned to her cheeks. Lyra gasped in joy, tears falling silently. "You did it. You saved her." Ethan smiled faintly. "Not yet," he said. "This will only buy us time. She still needs real treatment. But we'll keep her alive until we find a way." For a few moments, silence filled the room except for the soft hum of the machines. Ethan finally sat down, his tired eyes scanning the dusty medbay. Old memories rising like ghosts, the screams, the pain, the orders he disobeyed. All of it came rushing back. Lyra broke the silence. "You don't look like other humans," she said softly. "The others yell or push us away, but you help." He looked at her, his voice low and tired. "Not all humans are the same, just like not all aliens are enemies." She tilted her head, confused but curious. "Then why do people still hate each other?" Ethan sighed deeply, looking at the ceiling. "Because hate is easy," he said, "but helping someone, that takes courage." Before Lyra could respond, a sharp beeping sound filled the room. The motion sensors had triggered. Red lights blinked on the walls. Ethan's expression turned cold. "Someone's here," he whispered. Lyra froze, her hand clutching his sleeve. "Who?" Ethan grabbed his old sidearm from his belt, checking the charge. Guards, he said. The clinic's old security system must have alerted them when we powered it on. The faint sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway. Boots on metal. Mechanical voices calling out orders. Ethan turned off the lights, moving quickly to hide Lyra and her mother behind a supply cabinet. Stay quiet, he whispered, crouching low, his weapon ready. His eyes scanning the dark doorway. Lyra's tiny hand gripped his sleeve again, her eyes wide with fear. Her mother's weak whisper came from behind the cover. Please, don't let them take her. Ethan took a deep breath, his voice calm but firm. They won't, he said, I promise. As the door slid open with a hiss, flashlights cut through the darkness. Armed soldiers stepped in, their metallic armor glinting under the emergency lights. Ethan's finger hovered near the trigger. His heartbeat steady, his mind focused. He had made a promise, and he wasn't about to break it. And as the guards began to search the room, the faint hum of the machines mixed with the rising tension in the air, setting the stage for a moment that would decide all their fates. One wrong move, one sound, and everything would change forever. The air inside the clinic turned cold as the first echo of armored boots hit the metal floor. Shadows moved beyond the glass door, flashlights cutting through the darkness like blades. Ethan froze in place, listening to the mechanical voices approaching from the hall, each word sharp, each step closer. Sector 7 detected unauthorized power surge, one of the guards said through his helmet speaker. Thermal scan shows 3 life signs, 1 human. Lyra's small hand trembled in Ethan's sleeve. Her breath shallow. They're coming, she whispered. Her voice barely a sound. Ethan gave her a look, steady, calm, like a man who had seen war before. Stay down, stay quiet, he whispered back, his voice firm but soft. Don't move until I say. He pulled his sidearm free, sliding behind a broken bed frame for cover. The old clinic lights flickered, painting the walls in red and orange flashes. Lyra hid with her mother behind the supply cabinet, the older woman too weak to stand. Her breathing shallow but steady. The first guard stepped inside, heavy boots crushing bits of glass underfoot, his helmet light sweeping across the room. Another followed close behind, scanning with a plasma rifle ready. Looks abandoned, one muttered. Just old equipment. Then why's the generator active? The other replied, walking toward the medbay console. Ethan watched their reflections through a cracked mirror, waiting, timing his breath, every muscle in his body coiled like a spring. He knew he couldn't fight them all, not head-on, but he could distract them long enough for Lyra to escape. As the guard bent down to check the control panel, Ethan tossed a small tool across the room. It clattered loudly on the opposite side. Both guards spun instantly, guns raised. Over there, one shouted, moving toward the noise. Ethan slipped from behind his cover and struck fast, his hand hitting the back of the nearest guard's helmet. Shorting the power link, the soldier fell with a thud. Before the second could turn, Ethan slammed his elbow into his chest plate, sending him crashing into the medbed. Lyra, run, Ethan shouted. The girl didn't hesitate, grabbing her mother's arm. Pulling with all her strength toward the back exit, Ethan turned to cover them, firing 2 shots toward the hallway as more guards appeared. Energy bolts tore through the air, lighting up the room in blue flashes. A bolt grazed his shoulder. Burning through the fabric, he gritted his teeth, ignoring the pain. Keep moving, he yelled. Lyra stumbled through the back door, her mother leaning on her weakly. Ethan followed, smashing the control panel behind him. The door sealed shut, sparks flying. They ran through a narrow corridor filled with dust and cables. Alarms howled through the building. Red lights flashing everywhere. The whole clinic seemed alive with chaos now. Where are we going? Lyra cried, breathless. There's a maintenance tunnel ahead, Ethan said, panting. Leads to the Undercity. We can lose them there. The sound of pounding boots echoed behind them. The guards breaking through the door, shouting orders. The hall lit with gunfire again. Ethan turned, firing a quick burst that hit the ceiling, collapsing part of it behind them. Buying a few seconds, Lyra looked back once, seeing the smoke and sparks, then at the human bleeding beside her, her eyes wide with fear. You're hurt. Ethan shook his head. Doesn't matter, he said. Keep going. Don't stop until I tell you. They reached the tunnel hatch, a round door rusted from years of disuse. Ethan smashed the lock open with the butt of his weapon and pulled it wide. The air inside was cold and damp, smelling of oil and earth. He helped Lyra's mother inside first, then the girl, before stepping in last and sealing it shut behind them. The sound of metal locking echoed through the tunnel like thunder. Silence followed. Only the sound of their heavy breathing. Lyra turned to him, her glowing eyes wet with tears. "You fought for us," she whispered. "You could have left, but you didn't." Ethan leaned against the tunnel wall, his arm bleeding, his face pale but calm. "I told you, Lyra," he said softly. "I don't walk away from people who still have hope." Lyra looked at him with something she didn't have before. Trust. Deep and unshakable, she wiped her eyes and nodded. "Then I'll never leave you either," she said. Ethan smiled faintly, a tired, broken smile. "Let's keep your mother alive first," he said. "Then we'll talk about promises." Far above them, the clinic burned in silence, smoke curling into the night sky, the guards reporting failure. The human and two aliens vanished like ghosts into the city's forgotten tunnels. But for Ethan, this was more than escape. It was the beginning of something bigger, something he didn't yet understand. The small alien child beside him had reawakened the part of his soul he thought had died long ago. And deep down, he knew this act of defiance, the saving of one alien life, would soon bring the wrath of an entire world upon him. The tunnel was cold, damp and endless, stretching beneath the ruined city like a forgotten vein. Faint drips of water echoed through the darkness. Mixing with the sound of their footsteps, Ethan led the way, a dim light flickering from the device on his wrist, its glow casting long shadows on the metal walls. Behind him, Lyra walked carefully, helping her weak mother. Every few steps she looked up at Ethan, her small voice breaking the silence. "How far does this tunnel go?" "Far enough," Ethan said quietly, scanning the path ahead. "These tunnels used to be part of the transport network during the war. They connect the lower sectors, the places no one remembers anymore." Lyra nodded, gripping her mother's hand tighter. Her glowing eyes reflected the faint light. Her mother's breathing was slow but steady, the medicine Ethan had given her still fighting to keep her alive. After what felt like hours, they reached a wide chamber deep underground. The air smelled of old metal and dust. The remains of old machines lay scattered across the floor. Cargo drones, generators, even a broken hoverbed. Ethan lowered Lyra's mother gently onto a clean piece of fabric and turned to the girl. "We'll stay here tonight," he said. "It's safe." Lyra looked around the dark chamber nervously. "Safe from the soldiers?" Ethan nodded. "For now," he said, then added, "But they'll keep looking." He began to work quietly, using old wires and scraps to set up a small camp. His hands moved with practiced skill soon. A faint warm light filled the room, the soft orange glow of a rebuilt generator, the hum of power returning after years of silence. Lyra's eyes widened in awe. "You made light," she said softly, a small smile spreading on her face. Ethan chuckled lightly. "It's just an old trick," he said, adjusting the power output. "Humans are good at fixing broken things." She tilted her head, watching him work. "Even people?" Ethan paused, the question cutting deeper than he expected. He looked at her, then at the faint scar on his hand. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "but not always." Lyra didn't understand the sadness in his voice, but she could feel it. She looked at him as if trying to figure out what pain lived behind those tired eyes. After a while, Ethan handed her a small ration pack. "Eat," he said. "You need your strength." She took it, whispering, "Thank you, Sir Ethan." He smiled faintly. "Just Ethan is fine." She shook her head. "No, you saved my mother." "That means you're someone important." Her mother stirred then, opening her eyes weakly, the soft light from the generator reflecting off her silver skin. "Lyra," she whispered, her voice dry and fragile. Lyra ran to her side immediately. "Mom, you're awake." The woman's eyes moved to Ethan, confusion and gratitude mixing in her tired gaze. "You helped us?" Ethan nodded slowly. "You needed it," he said simply. "No one else would have." The woman coughed weakly. "Humans don't usually help our kind," she said, her tone uncertain. "Why did you?" Ethan looked down at his hands for a moment, then replied softly, "Because I couldn't watch another innocent die when I could do something about it." She stared at him for a long moment before whispering, "Thank you." Lyra held her mother's hand tightly, her small face glowing with relief. She looked at Ethan again, her eyes full of wonder. "We're not alone anymore," she said quietly. Ethan said nothing, but his chest tightened at her words. In that small dark room, surrounded by rust and silence, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. He repaired the old medbay machine he found half broken in the corner, connecting it to the generator. The machine beeped faintly, showing signs of life. He attached a few sensors to the woman's wrist. This will help track her heartbeat, he explained. If it drops again, I'll know. Lyra sat close to her mother, her small tail wrapped around her legs for warmth. She watched Ethan with quiet admiration. The way he moved, the way he spoke, calm, focused, kind, so different from anyone she had ever met. Hours passed, and the sound of the city above faded into silence. The three of them huddled in the glow of the generator. Lyra's mother finally drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep, and Lyra whispered softly, "Sir Ethan?" "Yeah?" he said, half awake, sitting against a wall with his rifle beside him. "When my mother gets better," she said, "I want to be like you." He raised an eyebrow. "Like me?" She nodded seriously. "I want to help others too, even if they're different." Ethan smiled quietly, his tired eyes softening. "That's a good dream," he said. "Just promise me you'll never lose that." Lyra smiled back, small but bright. "I promise." Outside, the world hunted them. Inside that small underground shelter, hope was reborn in silence. Fragile but burning bright, Ethan didn't know it yet. But this small promise between a human and a little alien girl would one day echo across the stars, changing the meaning of humanity forever. The next morning came slowly. The dim light from broken pipes above painted silver lines across the tunnel walls. The hum of the generator still whispered softly, keeping the small shelter alive. Ethan sat awake beside the entrance, his rifle across his knees. His eyes heavy but alert, Lyra stirred from sleep, rubbing her eyes with tiny hands, her silver skin catching the soft light. "Sir Ethan?" she asked quietly. "Did you sleep?" He smiled faintly. "Not much," he said, checking his wrist scanner. Old habits die hard. Her mother was still asleep, her breathing calm, her heartbeat steady. The machines Ethan repaired were still working, the weak signal lights blinking like tiny stars. Lyra smiled. "She's getting better," she said proudly. Ethan nodded. For now, yes, but his tone was distant, his eyes fixed on the faint beeping of his communicator, a hidden alert flashing silently on the screen. He pressed a few buttons, and a holographic image flickered to life. A bounty notice glowing red, showing his face under bold letters. Ethan Cole, wanted for harboring alien fugitives. Treason against the coalition. Lyra looked at it, confused. "What's that?" Ethan turned the screen off quickly, forcing a calm smile. "Nothing you need to worry about," he said. But she saw something in his eyes, a deep sadness mixed with quiet fear. He stood up, strapping his pack and checking his weapon. "Stay here with your mother." "I need to go find something," Lyra frowned. "Where?" "Up above," he said. "We need new med nanites, more power cells, and food if I don't go." "Your mother won't last much longer." She looked frightened, her hands trembling. "But the soldiers—" "I'll be careful," Ethan said gently, kneeling to meet her eyes. "Remember what I told you? Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's doing what's right despite it." She swallowed hard, then nodded. "Come back," she whispered. "I will," he promised. He left through the narrow tunnel, his boots echoing softly as he disappeared into the shadows. Lyra sat beside her mother, staring at the faint light until it faded. Hours passed. The quiet sound of machinery filled the room. Lyra tried to stay calm, but worry gnawed at her. When the tunnel door finally opened again, she ran forward, but stopped, frozen. Ethan wasn't alone. Behind him stood three figures cloaked in rough armor. One human, two aliens, their eyes sharp but kind, easy. "Little one," Ethan said, smiling faintly. "These are friends." The tallest alien stepped forward, his voice deep and steady. "Name's Kale, former Resistance. Your human friend told us what he did for you." Lyra blinked. "Resistance?" Ethan nodded. "They help people like you, aliens, humans. Anyone the coalition throws away." Kale lowered his head slightly toward her mother, who lay still on the bed. "We can take her off-world," he said. "There's a medical ship waiting in orbit." Lyra's eyes lit up. "You mean you can save her?" Kale nodded. "If we move fast," Ethan began packing their few belongings, his movements quick but quiet. Lyra noticed the blood on his sleeve, a fresh wound, burned and deep. "You're hurt." She gasped. He waved it off. "It's nothing. Got into a small fight on the way back. But we're out of time, Lyra. They've increased the patrols. They know someone helped you." She stared at him, realizing the truth. "The bounty," she whispered. "You're wanted now because of us." Ethan froze for a second, then gave her a faint smile. Worth it, he said simply. You and your mother are alive, that's all that matters. Tears filled her glowing eyes. Come with us, she pleaded. You can come too. We'll hide you, I promise. He shook his head slowly, his voice soft but steady. No, Lyra. They'll be searching every ship if I go with you. They'll find you. You need to live, not run forever. Cale placed a heavy hand on Ethan's shoulder. You can still come with us, brother. We'll fight for you if we have to. Ethan looked at him, his eyes calm. No, Cale, someone has to cover your escape. Lyra ran to him, wrapping her small arms around his waist, her tears wetting his coat. Please, don't stay behind. He knelt, placing a hand gently on her cheek, his voice breaking for the first time. You gave me something I lost long ago, Lyra, he said softly. Hope. He pulled something from his pocket. His old leather wallet, the same one she had found in the dust. He opened it and placed a new photo inside. Him, Lyra, and her mother. Taken with Cale's old data lens just moments ago. Keep this safe, he said, handing it to her. So you'll remember that one human believed in you. No matter what the galaxy said, Lyra took it with shaking hands. I'll never forget you, Sir Ethan, she whispered. Her voice trembling, Ethan smiled, standing as Cale began to lead them toward the escape tunnel. That's my girl, he said softly. Now go, and don't look back. Lyra hesitated at the entrance, turning one last time to see him standing there. Tall and calm, the faint light of the generator casting his shadow across the wall like a guardian of the old world. Then the door slid shut, sealing him in darkness. As the rebels led the ship's engines to life above the city, alarms wailed once more. Ethan looked up at the ceiling, hearing the distant roar of engines fading into the sky, and whispered, Be free, little one. Then he turned, his weapon ready, the tunnel behind him shaking with the sound of soldiers closing in. He took a deep breath and stepped forward into the darkness, ready to fight for every second he could give them. Far above, the stars shimmered faintly, and one small ship carried away an alien girl clutching a leather wallet, her heart full of grief and gratitude. As her mother whispered weakly, He gave us life, child. Now we must honor it. And somewhere beneath the ruins of a dying city, the last human light still burned, alone, but unbroken. The sky above the city burned with red light as the coalition ships began their sweep. Sirens wailed across the broken skyline, echoing through the ruins like cries of warning. Deep beneath in the old tunnels, Lyra and her mother followed Cale toward the rebel ship waiting in the hangar, their hearts pounding with every tremor from above. Ethan stood at the tunnel's edge, watching them disappear into the distance. His body ached, his arm still bleeding, but his mind was calm. For the first time in years, he felt peace, real, quiet peace. He had done something that mattered. The door to the tunnel slid shut, sealing Lyra and her mother on their path to freedom. He leaned against the cold wall, the faint hum of the generator echoing in the silence. A single drop of blood hit the floor, bright red against the dust. Ethan smiled faintly. Worth it. Above, Cale's voice came through the comms, rough with static. Ethan, they're moving in from the west. You sure about this? Ethan's hand hovered over the transmitter. Yeah, he said, his tone steady. I'll keep them busy. Get the girl and her mother to orbit. Don't look back. Cale paused for a moment, then said quietly, You're a good man, Cole. The galaxy won't forget this. The signal cut out. Ethan took one last look at the tunnel door. He could still picture Lyra's tearful face, the way she had clutched his old wallet like it was a treasure. That image burned in his mind, bright and alive. He whispered under his breath, Stay safe, little star. Then he turned. The sound of boots echoed through the corridor. The soldiers were coming fast now, armored and armed, their voices sharp and mechanical. Ethan picked up his rifle, reloaded, and moved toward the sound, his steps steady. When the first guard rounded the corner, Ethan fired, a quick, precise burst. The corridor flashed with blue light. The second wave followed, and he ducked behind cover, firing again, the air thick with smoke and dust. Every shot echoed like thunder, every move a heartbeat closer to the end. Outside, the rebel ship roared to life, its engines shaking the ground. Lyra looked through the small viewport, tears streaming down her silver cheeks. She could see the explosions far below, bursts of light against the dark surface. Her mother reached out weakly and held her hand. He gave us his world. Her mother whispered, her voice trembling. He gave you your future. Lyra pressed the wallet to her chest. I'll come back for him, she whispered, her voice breaking. I promise. The ship rose higher, breaking through the clouds into the endless night of space. Below, the last human light flickered inside the ruins. One man standing alone against an army. Ethan fired until his weapon overheated. Then he drew his sidearm. When the soldiers surrounded him, he stood tall, his eyes clear. The leader shouted, "You can't win, human." "Surrender now." Ethan smirked faintly. "I already did," he said. "I surrendered my fear." And with that, he triggered the charges he had set along the tunnel walls. A massive explosion erupted, sealing the path completely, protecting the escape route behind him. Silence followed. Far above, Lyra's ship cleared orbit. She looked back one last time, watching the planet shrink into the void. She wiped her tears and whispered softly, "Goodbye, Sir Ethan." "Thank you." Years passed. The war ended. The coalition fell. Peace returned, but not the same kind of peace that once existed. On a quiet world at the edge of the stars, a monument stood tall, a statue of a man in worn armor, holding a child's hand. At its base, engraved in 2 languages, were the words, "He chose kindness over power and hope over fear." Humanity lives not by its weapons, but by its heart. Lyra stood before it, now grown, a leader among her people, her silver skin glowing in the sun. In her hand, the old leather wallet, worn and cracked, but still whole. She placed it at the statue's feet and whispered, "You kept your promise, Sir Ethan. Now it's my turn." As she turned to leave, the wind swept across the field, carrying dust and light through the air. For a moment she thought she heard his voice, soft, calm, proud, "Keep shining, little star." And somewhere across the stars, the legacy of one human's kindness continued to burn, bright enough to light a galaxy.